You're listening to Heroes in the Moment.
What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
Today, Werewolf by Night.
AKA, it's black and white.
AKA.
Oh, it rhymed.
Did it?
Black and
Werewolf
white,
by night. Black and white.
Black and
Oh!
white. Dude, I'm about to spit some
Ooh.
fire on this pod.
Dude, that was some heat, man.
Thank you.
I respect that.
Yo,
but,
Drake, sign me. Sorry.
But Werewolf by Night, initial reactions, of course, our first ever Marvel special, Halloween special at that. And honestly, it was like killer good, man. I loved it.
I called it. You
it.
Did. The
You
moment
did.
I'm like, listen, man. And I know like you weren't too huge on it.
I wasn't
I
didn't know.
But we thought, there could be some, but I was like, listen, man, like this is going to be a banger. They're going to run with this 40s, like classic Halloween horror vibe, they're going to run with it. It's going to be great.
Right.
It's going to be a cool introduction to these characters, bro. And it was everything.
It was everything that was. And I agree. At first, like you said, I was very hesitant. I didn't know how well it would be or how well it would do. And I just didn't know. Because I had
no marketing at all. It just dropped.
Exactly.
Like,
it was not the best marketing. And
they had like one trailer a month before it came out.
One trailer a month before it came out. And then like just a couple of like posters.
Yeah.
But it absolutely surprised me. Like I'm not a huge like Halloween person. I'm not huge into the supernatural stuff. But this really surprised me.
Yeah.
Definitely is very good. Gave me that Hunger Games feel. Definitely.
I know, dude.
I loved it.
It was like so many different. It felt like so many different genres of a movie
It did.
fit into one.
I agree. Yeah.
But it was still like a very simple plot.
Yeah, it had that classic horror, right? And then it had the action element. It had some comedic. And
had that competitive between contestants, like you said, like the Hunger Games.
And I love that kind of stuff, man.
Yeah.
I love it. So it was amazing. So I really enjoyed this show. So we'll get into our pros and cons here briefly. But first, we got to talk about our characters, our central characters of this show. So, I don't know what you got, special.
Yeah.
But so we got to start off with off the bat with Mr. Wolfie himself, Jack, Werewolf by Night. I loved him.
I forget his name. What's his name again?
Gail
something
Garcia.
Anyway, listen, I've never seen him in anything.
Either.
He absolutely killed it.
He killed the role.
He gave me what Scamander in
oh yes,
he gave me those vibes. Someone did look like him, but he just gave those vibes.
The way he acts,
a very caring,
right? For sure,
for
the creatures,
for all
and
life,
stuff.
for creatures.
I for
he
sure
gave me that. I just now thought about that. But dude, he was
good.
Acting was phenomenal.
It was.
His chemistry with the other co-stars was phenomenal. And to be honest, listen, I'll tell you how big of a dummy I am, and I think this speaks not only to my idiocracy but also to Marvel's writing. I didn't even know he was Werewolf.
Really? You didn't
I didn't even know
that?
that. Literally until he touched it, I was like expecting it to be somebody else.
Really?
And I don't know why.
Did you think?
I thought he just had no powers. He was just there. But
did you know?
why.
Like Werewolf by Night in the comics is actually a good guy.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, Werewolf by Night. I mean, of course, the werewolf side is more anti-hero, but the character himself, he's a good guy. So for sure. But I love Jack. Like you said, I think he was a welcome addition to the MCU.
Yeah.
I think he's a great character. Definitely pays the way. I can definitely see him, interacting with other characters in the future of the MCU. I think, he would be a great addition. I don't know about Avengers level thing, but of course,
like
paving the way Midnight Suns, because he was involved with that in the comics. And I just thought he was very interesting and had a very compelling character that they wrote.
Story, yeah.
For sure.
I mean, like I said, we only got 45, 50 minutes, right? With
not
credits.
A lot.
But dude, they firmly, we'll talk about this later, but they firmly not only established his story, his backstory, but the other characters.
The other characters as well.
It's very impressive.
And this is, just shout out Michael Giacchino. I can't pronounce his name. This is his first ever thing he's ever directed. And he killed it, knocked it out of the ballpark. Of course, he composed it well. He's a very well-known composer. For example, if you know some of his old things, he did The Batman. He did Spider-Man No Way Home.
Really?
He did Thor Love and Thunder, the music, and he also did some other classic Pixar movies as well.
And directed, or is it just the music for this?
He directed it. This is his first directorial debut. Giacchino. And this is his first thing he's ever directed.
So he went from composing.
And he composed as well. And he directed Werewolf by Night.
So I assume he wrote the music too?
Yes, he did.
Huh.
And he knocked it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, I saw
the music was beautiful.
In the credits, I'm like, I have no idea who that is.
Yes. So he did a lot of the composing for a lot of those notable movies, like I said.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he directed it. So shout out to him because he killed it.
He completely, killed it. He captured exactly what he wanted to capture. Because, I felt like I was watching, a Dracula movie, with the settings and everything.
And it felt like a movie
the
for
40s.
sure. They paced it really well. And even though I would have loved to have more, it felt like a movie. And I love that.
It did.
It really went well with him. So shout out Michael Giacchino. If I pronounce that
shout
right.
out, dude.
For sure.
I mean, honestly, dude, give him some more projects in the future.
I would love it.
He did a good job with this one.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just give him the time to break it down. All right. So next up, we got to talk about the next big character, Elsa Bloodstone. And I actually, I didn't think I would initially like her as much. I thought they'd make her more of a jerk of a character.
Yeah.
But they did not do that. I really liked her. I liked the chemistry between her and Jack.
It was great.
I think that was really well done.
And she had it's a very common stereotype in movies, right? It's a kind of turned off by her past, really, rough, tough on the outside, but, secretly she cares and she doesn't want to show it. Yeah.
For sure.
And I thought she killed it. She reminded me a lot of Haley Atwell. Obviously, Haley Atwell's portrayal.
Not near
in
as
the MCU.
comedic.
Yeah, not near as comedic. She's obviously a little darker. But I don't know, dude. She was a complete beast. She was
so tough, man.
I loved her.
She killed all of her action sequences were really well done. The choreography was great. The only thing I didn't like is she looks nothing like her comic counterpart at all.
I don't know where her comic character.
She has red hair and a huge ponytail, like a bounty hunter suit. So she looked
that might not have gone over well in black and white.
No, and that could pave the way to what she looked like.
Well, she was wearing a red suit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a homage to the hair that
I don't know. We'll see what they do in the future. But I like the actress who played her. I'm not sure of her name.
I've never seen her.
I've never seen her in anything
honestly,
as well.
But
the only other I haven't seen really anybody that was in this show before.
Honestly, I hadn't seen.
I know.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody.
I know the stepmom was in several old sitcoms, but never any that I was really watched. So that's all I know. But yeah, she was really great. Honestly, though, the way that they presented it is she was more the main character than Jack was. In this.
I mean, because she's the daughter. She's the one that had chosen to follow her, her mom's steps, which we don't know what happened to her mom. We know that there's a stepmom.
We don't know.
That leaves the door open, for something maybe in the future. Right. But coming back, kind of out of shape with the monster hunting, but like still an absolute unit on the field.
For sure. And I know
great story. Little
definitely.
Time to introduce, but great story.
Right. And I know it's going to pave the way. I know she had a huge role in the comics. She had a huge role in Secret Wars. So I would
in Secret Wars.
In Secret Wars,
really,
there's 2 different comics of Secret Wars. So,
she hunts out the scrolls. Is that what she does?
She does a lot of cool stuff and hunter stuff. I don't know a ton about her, but
probably she might do that.
She might do that.
Know.
So this also could lead into like her being in a Midnight Suns as well. I don't know if she'd necessarily be like a main character, but maybe a supporting role in those things. But I think she's cool and an interesting addition as well.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have to talk about Man Thing. AKA Ted. AKA the best MCU character of all time.
Goated. Previously, we had a lot of characters up there. We had Groot. We had Groot.
We had Bathtub Groot.
Bathtub Groot. we had God Groot over these,
for sure.
But I think now it's Ted.
I think it's Ted
supremacy, honestly.
Dude, Ted supremacy. Ted was the best character. I loved Ted. Absolutely adored him. At first, I didn't know how they would do Man Thing because Man Thing is a hero in the comics. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
And I did not know exactly how they would do him, in this show. Of course, they made him the monster.
Yeah.
And of course, Jack wanted to save him, get him out of the situation. But he was just a big, pet.
Yeah.
And I loved him.
And it was weird because you'd see him, go from using his acid to burn somebody alive in 3 seconds. And then they're like, you just got to talk to him like an old friend. His name's Ted.
Mm-hmm.
And go to like a gentle giant, And
very
similar to Groot. Exactly. Can't talk.
It was so funny when Elsie runs up and he was about to attack her. And then she's like, Ted, and his face just goes, huh?
He's like, huh?
It's like with a dog when a tongue comes out.
Yeah, no, like, honestly.
It's how it was. And I loved Ted. And of course, it paves the way for him to be part of the Midnight Suns as well in the future, which I would love. And he was a welcome addition.
He's OP, man.
Dude, yeah.
When you think about how big he is, how powerful, I don't see anybody. He could grab Groot and burn him alive in 2 seconds.
Anybody,
yeah. Like, honestly,
for sure.
You want that kind of acid on you.
But he was awesome.
Yeah,
and I loved him in this special. He was definitely.
I know. As soon as I heard, I obviously knew he was going to be the monster, but I was kind of worried that they were going to make him like either a villain or an anti-hero. I was like, please,
don't do that. No, make him the good guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He needs to be, and he was, and he was my favorite part.
I didn't see that coming with the whole plot with him and Jack, dude. I did not see that.
Yeah, I mean, people got to realize there's a difference between Man Thing and Swamp Thing. Man Thing came first, though. Let that be established.
Swamp Thing
is pretty much an anti-hero, and he's a bad guy in a lot of senses in DC. So
it's weird they have him and Poison Ivy at the same time. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So
Man Thing's a legend.
All right, next up, we got to talk about the stepmom, along with the other hunters. We'll put them in one bracket because they've all had horrible deaths, pretty much gruesome deaths. Shout out Marvel.
Shout out. I was not expecting
But we'll talk about them more in the pros and
for
cons
sure.
for sure. But the stepmom, of course, was the villain of the show. She was completely against Elsa, and of course, the werewolf Jack.
I could not stand her.
No, she was horrible. But
it made me want that backstory, dude. Like, how did she get into this family?
Right.
Well, did she kill the mom?
That's probably true.
You know, we don't know what happened, but dude, she was such a terrible person. I wanted to punch her the whole time.
Dude, yeah.
She was terrible,
she was
man.
Horrible, but that was like a good villain. I mean, she was a good villain, honestly.
They wrote her well because every scene she was on, I was just like filled with rage.
And I remember being so hyped when the werewolf grabbed her in the cage. I was like, yeah!
Rip her apart, baby.
But that, of course, didn't happen. Which, the only thing, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in the cons, but like, I didn't like the fact that Jack the werewolf didn't get any of the major kills in this show. Like, he didn't kill any of the hunters or the mom.
I know. So, by the way, Elsa.
Yeah, Elsa killed most of them, and Man-Thing killed 2 of them, being the stepmom and the bearded dude.
Yeah.
Like, I would have liked to seen him kill one of them, at least one.
But
like,
it was just some guards, and it was dark too.
I mean, it was dope.
Like, we could have used some more.
The way they used him and all the practical effects were amazing.
Yeah,
but like, I would have liked to have seen him kill one of the main characters, like one of the main hunters.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I wanted to see him kill the main big bearded one because they were playing the big bearded guy, you know, as this. You know, the best of all the hunters.
Right,
57 confirmed kills.
I think they killed him too early.
Yeah, no, they should have saved him and had a showdown with him. And
I think that would have been a lot cooler. I agree.
That would have been cool.
I would agree. But just to break down those deaths, you know, again, they were awesome. You know, you had Elsa Bloodstone kill the one dude cutting his arm off, shooting him in the face.
Yeah, when she cut off his arm, dude, I was shocked.
I know.
I was not expecting that from Marvel.
I was not expecting that dark. And then, of course, for him to drown in his own blood, like, holy cow.
But she, like, chops off his arm and shoots him with
his own weapon.
I know. And then she's hugging his, like, body, trying to hide from the other guy. I was like, bro.
Was sick.
Fire.
And, of course, Man-Thing grabs the bearded dude and just burns him alive. And then, of course, the next sense, the... who was the next one to die? The other dude, right? Elsa slit his throat.
Yeah, dude, that was so casual. Like she cuts off his ear.
Dude, that was clean, man. Like, she cut his ear off and then like went in this one slick move.
She went like full Peter on it.
Dude, yeah, it was.
But
so
she like
slick.
puts him like down on his like knees, and then just what?
And then the other girl, she took it a step further.
Oh, she was so weird, dude.
And then cut putting the through
right
her skull.
between.
I was like, whoa, Marvel, and it showed it.
I know, and she just sat there.
Like, I know it's black and white, and they could get away with more, but still, I'm glad that they did it. And it was hype. And of course,
it was hype. She went crazy on him.
Absolutely brazy, man.
Brazy, man.
And then, of course, the stepmom was like ripped in half and then threw at her dead husband by Swamp Thing. Or not Swamp Thing,
oh
Man
my
Thing.
goodness.
Ted!
I know. Listen, man, that was brutal enough, but the disgrace getting thrown at the coffin witches, that was so personal.
Took it a step further.
That was so
he was
personal.
Like, this is personal for me.
So petty. I love
she's the one who planted the stone in him in the first place that made him mad. So
I know, she deserves it.
For sure.
Also, that whole stone thing didn't make sense.
Yeah, that's the thing we'll talk about. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But, all right, so now to get into our pros, we'll start off with those. You want to hit us off the first pro? Nathan?
Yeah, first of all, it was a very ballsy move to do so, and I think it's paid off well. But that's, trying to copy that 40s horror style.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't seen any other movie that has tried to, or special that has tried to do so like recently. Like, it's just not, that whole style was a product of the generation. It's not like, a certain genre you see done from time to time. It's like, this was like this because of this time and these visual effects and everything. And Marvel, with all their budget and everything, chose to strip it down to this very simple black and white horror kind of vibe. And I think it really, really, really paid off. I thought it was very unique. I thought it was special. I think it might be the most ambitious thing they've done alongside it's probably like Spider-Man No Way Home, probably like What If, as far as like different, I mean, like there's been nothing like this.
Right.
Black and white in Marvel, I never thought I'd see
this is the most different Marvel project by far, for sure.
I'm going with that.
I mean, already saying, you can't compare it to like movies and shows and stuff, but at the same time, like project-wise in general, for Phase 4, it's already like up there. Like when it comes to Phase 4, like top 5.
Yeah,
maybe?
I'd say
like,
it's easily top 5.
It's easily top 5.
I think it's arguably
it's up there with
3.
like No Way Home,
WandaVision,
Moon Knight. You know,
I think the only thing you just gotta debate that Moon Knight and Loki.
Right.
I think are the only debates.
Right, the only other debatable, and Shang-Chi. You know,
it's all of it.
Oh man, that's like number lowest. Whatever that is.
The bottom.
Well, I think She-Hulk's the bottom now. But anyway, I'll leave that for
That's tough.
I'll leave that for episode 9.
We'll talk about it later.
But yeah, so awesome. So for my first pro, I gotta say cinematography, man, was like beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like you said, the whole black and white features, the what was the tube of fire, man? It was sick. And then of course the transition later on to the color and just the way that it was shot. Just absolutely like I really was enticed by that,
and especially because it's shocking because it's the first time director too,
right?
Like his shots, like what we said, were simple, but dude, they were like captivating. I had people texting me, and I was like glued to the screen. Normally, I'd want to respond. I'm weird about that, dude, but I was like locked in.
I was locked into the show. You know, a lot of times in like She-Hulks or other stuff that I'm watching, I often find myself on my phone
drift off
at some places, time. But I didn't touch my phone during Werewolf by Night, which was awesome. I really need to watch it again to fully grasp a lot of stuff that I missed. But I that was another pro of mine. How about you?
This is, I mean, there's a lot of pros, but I kept it pretty simple. My other really big pro was the lore they had, and then the really good intro they had into the specific style. I mean, dude, to kick us off with all the stuff on the walls and all the story about the Blackstone family. Not only
really playing into the supernatural.
Exactly. Not only did we see all those flashback scenes, but we saw Gore the God Butcher on the walls. We saw multiple other monsters. We've never seen the exploration into the Marvel Universe.
No, we haven't.
And honestly, like, this could go literally anywhere they wanted to.
And it's
it's open the doors. Right. But they didn't, overstay their welcome, talking about the backstory, the Blackstones, their history fighting these monsters, or the stone, or the lore. They kept it pretty short and sweet, but it was like just enough to like really spike interest. Like, I want more.
Oh yeah,
I want, like, literally, even if they hadn't talked about the Blackstones, just looking, dude, at like the freaking walls with all the stories of all the monsters defeated. Like, I don't want to see a CGI monster with one eye fight Doctor Strange. Like, I want to see like a gritty, like Beowulf type of tale.
I agree. That would be super sick. I completely agree. And another pro of mine is the darkness and the seriousness of the gore and just the willingness, even though it was black and white, and that's probably the reason they went black and white, to keep that TV-14 rating.
They can just like throw blood everywhere.
Right. Like, it would have been MA if they colorized it. It would for sure have been MA. But I'm so glad that they went in that direction and they went further than Marvel's gone with a lot of the things. I mean, this was probably the darkest MCU project that I can think of, maybe subtract like Endgame, but like it was really, really well done. So I definitely appreciate that from Marvel, for sure.
That's those are the big two things that I had, to be honest.
Another one I had is just the plot. Like, I loved the plot of Werewolf by Night. I thought
it wasn't
great.
cheesy.
It wasn't cheesy. I love the Hunger Games feel of the fight for the stone, and I love that feat.
And it was still like complicated enough to make it not cheesy, it wasn't just every man for itself. It's like, all right, this father figure has died, and this stone, with this all context, can fight all these monsters, and then we're gonna throw all of you in there, and whoever fights the monster and gets back the stone, like, it was complicated enough, not to be dumb or cheesy.
I agree.
Like I said, it was simple, but it was fire.
I completely agree. All right, now to get into the cons. I don't have a whole lot, but there's a few, because there's no perfect project necessarily. But it's off the first con, back of what you said earlier, is they did not explain the Bloodstone well.
Yeah.
That's my probably biggest con. I wish they would have gone more in depth about what the Bloodstone is and what it does.
Yeah,
more so than what it did. You know what I mean?
I mean, we saw her shoot like 4 beams at Werewolf. Is it Werewolf or Werewolf by Night?
It's Werewolf by Night's his name.
That's so weird to say. Like, I mean, I felt like I was looking at Tony Stark. She's like, pew, 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 like she's shooting it. But then also it can like attach onto a monster and then weaken them. Like, we gotta know. Like, what can the weapon do?
And we also don't have like possessive.
What is it, a stone?
Yeah, it's a stone. I know it's like very possessive of whoever it's glued to. And I know at some point Deadpool took it from Elsa to save her life or something like that in the comics and stuff like that. And it gives the user more supernatural abilities and strength and enhanced stuff. And that
in
kind
that
of
case,
stuff.
like the stepmom should be going crazy when she had it in her hands, you know?
So I don't think that they explained that well at all, and that was the one thing. And it makes me think, because it ends with it going to color and then her having the bloodstone. So I think it probably will be explained in future stuff better.
Yeah.
But my thing is I don't necessarily know what the future stuff will be, but we'll theorize about that after the cons.
Playing off on that too, I was confused like why they would want to put it on Man Thing. I mean, like the whole thing was just hyping up how important it is to be the person in charge of this, monster killing thing.
Right.
How important the Bloodstone is. Like they were hyping it up and there's only like 6 or 7 hunters there. So it's a very select group. So why in that case would they try to nerf the monster that they're going against? It would seem like they would put the hardest, best monster out there to truly test. But so like, by the way, we're going to throw it on there. And it seemed contradictory because they said it makes him more angry and dangerous, but it also weakens him. I feel like
that was confusing.
I was like, how does it make him angry but a weak?
Exactly. Like, how does it make him like super angry but weak to where you can like beat him?
Any creature will be stronger.
My guess is it's probably the only creature they could get at the time to do this thing. It's like not like that you can just like order on Amazon the biggest creature, but that's probably that. But yeah, I completely agree with what you were saying. Yeah. Did you have any other cons?
Yeah, I have one more con. My con was I wasn't vibing with the CGI of Werewolf by Night, and let me tell you why.
There was no CGI on it. It was completely practical.
All right, then I wasn't vibing with the practicalness of it. Basically, when I was looking at him, all I could see was still the man. Maybe that's exactly what they were intending, the man behind the beast.
Yes.
But in almost every other project with the werewolf in it, there's a large physical change with it too. I understand the use, the reason for not using CGI, but I don't know. I just had all I could see was a guy when I was looking at him because it was still no muscles, same height, same face, same eyes. It was kind of hard to believe that was now a killing machine.
Now, I understand that, but I really actually like that because of the fact that they did not use CGI. They decided to go into the classic horror element of the 40s, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, just put a
and make it practical because in the 40s, that's what they would have looked like. And then not only with that is they wanted to capture that the man's still in there. And the whole thing, that's the reason he didn't attack and kill Elsa.
That's a good point.
That's the reason they wanted to,
I gotta sniff you.
give that reasoning that there's still a man in there.
Yeah.
And even though he turns into this monster and the way the choreography around him was awesome, that the way they did it, the way he leaped around and jumped around and did things. Yeah. Awesome. Even though he didn't look perfect, and I think that they could improve that. And of course it was black and white, so we didn't see him in his full fury.
Yeah.
So I actually really liked that part, honestly.
Listen, man, that's a really good point. I think about that.
We'll see with the future with that. So how they'll improve it in color.
Yeah, in color. Right. And with obviously a bigger budget.
Exactly. All right. So my last con is actually, I think it was at sometimes a little bit too comedic for a Halloween 40s horror special, if that makes sense. Not completely like it was in your face cheesy comedic, but in some cases, like when they were talking in the, when they were like caught in the graveyard area, whatever that they were in. Yeah. And some of the comedicness in there was not very like welcome.
And she's bleeding,
right. And then like there was, just some of that things and some of the inconsistencies.
How can they not get out of there?
Exactly. And then they just like, she just.
By the way, there's keys.
By the way, there's keys, and just like that was weird.
And then when she opens the door is like 6 inches, like
yeah.
Like they could have easily busted through us.
Exactly right. So
he like shakes it towards. We can't get out.
I know. So that part was, the inconsistencies there, and then of course the comedicness. Ted was beautiful in every sense, but I feel like it was a little bit too comedic for this special in a sense.
Yeah.
But that was really it for cons wise.
That's about all I had. I wanted to include this, but I didn't know how I felt. How did you feel about it going to color?
I liked it. I did. I think it was really well done because it shows that it didn't happen in the past. It happened in the now.
Yeah, and it's like transitioning better with the future stuff.
And I think the reasoning was because, they played into the black and white themes because, of course, they wanted to play homage to the classic horror idea, but they also wanted to show that this was a time of darkness and badness that was going on in this hunter organization. And now that Elsa has a stone, it's a time of light and a comeback of, what's going to happen in the future, the hunters and the supernatural. So I think that's the reason. So I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was super dope whenever she
I was
picked up
throwing
the
off.
stone
I was like, what?
the red. And then, of course, we finally see Jack and then Man Thing in color.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
It was so weird.
But
Yeah.
I liked
it too.
So that was nice. All right. So now to get into the theories for the possible future of these characters and what we might see in the MCU. So obviously, like we've been talking about earlier in this podcast, I think it's honestly the way it's doing it, maybe leading into a possible Midnight Suns.
I mean, like the question would be, what else would it be?
Right. The only other thing I could think of is maybe an appearance in Blade, but we don't want it to be oversaturated because we already know that Dane Whitman's going to be in it.
You know, Mahershala Ali's first appearance.
Right. So we already know it's going to have Kit Harington and Mahershala Ali in Blade. So why have already Jack Werewolf by Night and Man Thing and Elsa Bloodstone and then all these characters?
Throw them all into Midnight Suns. Yes. And listen, from that movie, then they can spawn out into that world.
I agree.
But they can't do that now. They have to establish that with that movie. So
now,
yes, throw
I
in
do
new characters.
think that Jack and Man Thing, not Elsa, but Jack and Man Thing could possibly appear in Moon Knight Season 2. I think that would be a good place for them because as we know, Moon Knight was introduced in a Werewolf by Night comic. So I think that would be a good place to have them, interact. I think that'd be a good way. Because I would love to see Oscar Isaac interact with, what's his name, Jack. So that'd be cool to see. So I don't know. My only thoughts on that is, of course, we know that they're playing and the Supernatural is going to have a big effect on the MCU's Kevin Feige said. Yeah. We know it's breaking down into several different sub-elements throughout the MCU, different subcategories. So I think a possible Midnight Suns would be great for that. Or, of course, some Moon Knight Season 2. Maybe Blade Hintage or something like that. Also, I think it would have been cool if the series ended with similar to Eternals, with Mahershala Ali's voice as Blade,
like speaking
calling
to him.
Jack like in that thing, and just like walking up to him and then be like, "I need your help" or something cool like that.
Missed an opportunity.
I think that was a missed opportunity. Yeah, you didn't even have to show him like they did. They could just
get him in the studio, and record
same thing with Eternals, and I think that'd been pretty dope for me, but.
Yeah,
I can't say
I didn't think about that, but that would have been hyped.
Right. All right. Now it's time to rate this special out of 10, Nathan. What do you think? I'll let you start us off.
Ooh, given the pros and cons and, I'll see what we just seen, I think a fair rating. I think a fair rating would be a. I'm going to go 7.5.
7.5. Okay.
I'm going to go 7.5. Yeah. I don't feel like it nearly qualifies to be an 8, but I think 7 or more is definitely doable.
Doable.
I'm gonna settle with 7. It's definitely above the Pact. It's really good. I'll say I rate it lower. But I wouldn't say that it's a top 5 Marvel project that we've seen.
Well, I wouldn't say in all totality, but in Phase 4 for sure.
In Phase 4, yes,
definitely
for sure. But.
I debated between where I would go. It's not high enough for a 9, but I think I'll settle with an 8. An 8 out of 10. I feel like 7's too low. Because it was so good. I really liked it. And I feel like 7's kind of calling it more leaning towards average, even though it's decent.
Yeah.
I would say 7 means more decent, where 8 means good. Okay. And I think it was good. So I'm going to say 8. Of course, not perfect with the cons and stuff, the inconsistencies. But I had a great time watching it. It was a welcome addition to the MCU. Definitely different, like we said. And I think 8's a fair rating for it.
I respect it. I respect it.
Yep. I love that show.
All right, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know by giving us a review and a download. Our podcast, Here's in the Moment, is out everywhere, wherever you listen to podcasts. So go ahead and check us out. Yeah. If you want to stay up to date on the socials, follow us at Here's in the Moment on Instagram and Here's in the Moment with an extra T on TikTok. Feel free to check out all of our previous episodes. Our last one being She-Hulk episode 8 breakdown with Daredevil in it. Super hype. So if you want to, go ahead and check that puppy out.
Yeah. And we just want to thank y'all for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.